I'm Isabelle Gonthier, Chief Assessment Officer at PSI Services, and I invite you to delve deep into the world of testing with me. Every episode, I'll be on the virtual couch with experts from the testing industry, engaging in conversations about the latest developments in our field. Your quest for testing knowledge starts here.
Welcome to this special edition of the Tried and Tested podcast. I have the pleasure here to be live here in Miami Beach, where we're having our very first Credentialing Leaders Summit here with PSI and our distinguished guest. It's following the ICE conference, so it's really interesting to have a conversation today with our guests. So our guests today are Dr. Yermie Cohen. He's the founder and CTO of Memorang. We also have Janet Garcia, the CEO of PSI. And we have Wally Dalrymple. He is the Chief Security Officer at PSI and at ETS. So welcome to the Tried and Tested live podcast. Thank you very much. I know, doing it live. So in today's episode, what we're going to be talking about is the future of assessments. But really what we want to do is leverage the audience, the questions, and we also want to leverage what we've been discussing throughout the day, but also building from the ICE Exchange Conference. There's lots of different topics, hot topics that have been discussed, and we have the privilege of having experts here on the stage that will be able to give us some additional perspective. So I will start with my first question. So we're talking a lot about exam security. This is a hot topic. It's been a hot topic for a long time. It continues to be a hot topic. It's never going to get old. So protecting the integrity of assessment program is obviously paramount, considering what's at stake. We all know that. So we discussed here today, but also through the conference, some scary stuff. Let's just put it on the table. But we also discussed ways of combating them. So the question here is that, where do we start? How do we play this critical whack-a-mole game? And Wally, I want to start with you.
Excellent, thank you. Never been a part of live TV before, so it's pretty exciting. Great question, whack-a-mole. It's not my favorite game, so I'm not really a fan of actually playing whack-a-mole because I don't think there's no way to win isn't the right word, but there's no way to get ahead. You're constantly maybe getting out some frustration, but there's other ways to do that, right? So what enables us not to have to play the game where we can't get ahead is by actually having a strong security program with a true and tried methodology. So we're not going to be able to stop from having to hit or whack, right? I don't think this is a good game. Moles, because I'm feeling bad about it already, is I'm talking about it. This is live TV, right? So sorry. Yeah. So I want to reduce having to do that, and in our program, sort of reduces the number. Maybe it's like a dam, and there's water coming out of the holes in the dam, and you have to patch the holes in the dam. Well, we have to patch fewer holes in the dam, and we're able to control how much water is coming through the dam. Is ultimately what we've built, and I feel really comfortable that's where we're going to continue to go in the future. Thank you for the question.
Yeah, no, for sure. Janet, what more do you want to add to that? Because I know this is critical, and yes, you can pass the mic to Yermie for after.
Thank you for the question. And I suppose there's a couple of things that I want to say about it. On the one hand, it's kind of flattering because if the credentials that our industry represented didn't hold such currency and such value, then there wouldn't be so many people out there trying to exploit the individuals that want to go after those. So the currency of the credentials that we have, we need to celebrate that, and we need to protect them with our lives, because there will be forever people exploiting those that have a real need to get that credential. Now, my perspective is slightly different. I'm the CEO of PSI. I'm not a security expert. But what I do know is the need, because of what I just said, for us to protect the integrity. And I know in order to protect the integrity, I need to prioritize on the amount of investment and resource that we put behind it. So whilst the CEO, supposedly sits at the top and has all the power, we actually don't. The only power that we have is to allocate sufficient money, resource, support, and create a culture in which we prioritize security. So I know maybe it's not helpful to anybody other than the other CEOs that listening to the podcast. But for me, the only thing I can do is ensure that it is prioritized to us, and that I put enough resource and investment behind it to keep ahead of those that are trying to exploit the system that we're so proud of.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that. And I really want to zero in on the cultural aspect. I think that's an important concept. It needs to be a priority for everyone. It needs to be part of the culture. You all know that. You live and breathe that every day. And I think that's what's important, is to kind of inject that perspective across the board. It's everyone's responsibility. So really, really important comment. Yermie, I just want to come to build from that. We think about security, but we think about how AI can support and help in protecting programs. Can you comment on that?
Yes, absolutely. And my perspective is going to be a little bit complementary. And I think AI affords you to go by the old adage, sometimes the best defense is a good offense. Mm-hmm. And the first way that comes in is that if you streamline the end-to-end test development process to expand the bank of approved items. Well, let me give you a thought experiment. 100,000 items for your exam have leaked. Someone has managed to memorize all 100,000 pieces of information. At that point, they probably should pass the credential.
They should be using their talent differently,
But bringing it back down to reality, another thing is what happens when items are leaked and you detect that. The ability to be able to retire those items and quickly get new ones into new test forms is critical. Or the ability to be able to create more dynamic intersections of different test forms, or preventing retakers from seeing the same items or semantically similar items. And then even more on the offense, from talking to Nicole earlier, they are Web 2.0 browsing the internet, trying to find string similarity for items that may have leaked. Well, AI is very, very good at search and semantic similarity. So now you can leverage the same AI tools we're using internally for content generation to be able to have more nuanced detection of someone may have not remembered the item exactly, but they wrote it in a way that still gave away the answer. You can go even more on the offense because you can build AI agents and crawlers that are intersecting these communities and trying to get access to privileged parts of the web. And then that's what you could do today. Towards the future, ETS and PSI are talking about the future of assessments. And I think that as the future of assessments continuously evolves quickly, it's going to be a lot harder for people to develop cheating mechanism against it. And if you start moving towards authentic skills assessment, you can't cheat an authentic skill. So that would be my perspective.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent perspective. And I just want to layer on in terms of, continuing on the theme of AI, because all we talk about is AI. I know, if you've watched or listened to any of the Tried and Tested podcasts, it's a theme. So on that though, Yermie, I want to talk about the fact that is obviously very disruptive. And it's important to have the conversation around acknowledging that. But how do we equip ourselves to actually turn that disruption into like a huge advantage? So your point earlier, like offense, but building on leveraging the tools that are available, and then the awareness and education for the credentialing industry.
So it has to do with the last thing you said. You said leveraging the tools that are available. I think it comes down to leveraging and building the tools that aren't yet available. And so part of staying ahead, again, the best defense is a good offense, is that if you're reacting to what you're seeing in the world, or you're waiting for some blog post from Claude or ChatGPT to tell you about what AI is, or you're waiting for the newsletter that's going to go out in a month, you're already behind.
Yeah.
And you need to go back to first principles, which means that you go towards the actual technology itself and you say, I'm looking at this API request. I'm looking at the way that data is coming in. I'm looking at the literature that's being published by Microsoft and other domains, and I'm inferring what's going to be a productized capability in the future. And I'm going to start building towards where I think AI is going to be 6 months from now, not reacting to the tools that I have today.
Yeah, it's the proactiveness here that makes the difference. Janet, I know, again, from your perspective, like from that CEO level perspective and the commitment that you're making to PSI as an organization, to the industry, the people, the clients, the organizations we work with. What are your thoughts around that disruption in the tools?
Yes, I mean, the tools that we have and are taking advantage of to bring innovation into our products and to all of our systems and processes, those tools are also available to the bad guys. So I guess there's two ways that I would answer that. On the one hand, I am, and anyone watching this online can see, I am physically surrounding myself with people who know more than me about these matters. So I'm literally surrounding myself with experts who have both sides of that weighing scale. On the one hand, I have expertise on how can we take advantage of this incredible industrial revolution moment in time that we have to completely re-engineer and not just augment, completely rethink the way that we do business and the way that we go about our processes, and put that in the hands of our clients and just, change the world in a rapid pace. And then on the other hand, I need to have expertise from somebody who can say, okay, how do we defend ourselves against those whom also are trying to innovate in the way that they cheat, in the way that they have organized gangs, in the way that they try and exploit our test takers. So you need to look at, both sides. I guess from a content, because security is so many different things. There's security of actually cheating during the process, and there's obviously the security of the actual content itself and how can we protect the content. And I suppose in my super simplistic mind, I imagine, what if there was limitless content banks? What if the content leakage just wasn't a thing anymore because there was a limitless, infinite amount of content and variations of the way that we assessed. And rather than just thinking, how do I protect those 30 questions? We need to reimagine it. So I guess that would be the two ways that I look at it.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what's really important, that we need to challenge ourselves to think differently, to operate differently, and leverage the expertise that we have around us. Wally, just wanted to provide an opportunity for you before we turn it over to interactive questions from the audience. But again, thinking about AI, the opportunities that it brings to you from your landscape.
Yeah, and Yermie said it perfectly. It's the opportunity to play offense. Security's always been about playing defense. We're always defending. We never get to attack. The bad guys get to attack. We never get to attack. So it's in a good way, right? And so this is about, I immediately think about upskilling. I think about the security professionals that are part of our team and the hours that they put in looking and going through logs and looking for how, our bad actors they're always trying to get in our environment, but are they trying to exploit something? Could be an AI application, could be an API, could be our website. So we're always playing defense. Well, now AI is really going to help upskill the security professionals, give them more opportunities to play offense, and actually leverage those tools to actually help make the difference. It's not just about blocking and tackling. It's like now we get to move down the field. Now we get to, score touchdowns and kick field goals and score goals, right?
And
depending
celebrate.
on where you're at, right? And celebrate. Exactly. We get to do a touchdown dance. So it is about upskilling, and I think that really empowers the workforce. And so I'm really excited about the capability in the future, but also about improving our skills.
Love the passion. I think it's important, again, to kind of, fuel that and leverage that passion to fuel all of the initiatives that we have in place.
And now a short break. Hello, tried and tested listeners and fellow testing enthusiasts. I'm Isabelle Gonthier, your guide through the fascinating world of credentialing. Each week, we dive deep with expert guests to explore the hottest topics in certification and licensure testing. If you're enjoying our journey through lifelong learning and innovation, take a moment to subscribe wherever you get your podcast. And if you know someone passionate about testing or curious about the latest testing trends, why not share this podcast with them? It might just be the inspiration they need. Thank you for tuning in and being part of our community. Remember, sharing knowledge is one of the best ways to grow our industry together. Keep listening.
So this is now your opportunity, people in the audience, to ask the question that you were burning to ask. So I'm going to open it up for audience question.
I'm a gardener, so moles are horrible. Whack away, don't feel bad. I just wanted to throw that out there. But I think the other thing I wanted to say I've in a previous life in a different profession at a different time, technology had a dramatic impact on changes in that profession, and it took almost a decade for the market, the vendors, the providers to come into the right place to provide the solutions that were needed. I want to applaud PSI for bringing solutions to us, for some of them before we knew we needed them, right? We know they're out there, but to have true solutions. So thank you for that. My question is then, what do we need to go back and prioritize our conversations with our staffs, or more importantly, our boards, on how to prepare for the next steps of what we've learned today and the last few days at ICE?
So I'm happy to start.
Absolutely, Janet, go ahead.
So thank you, and you're welcome. First of all, so the showcase that we've put on today is obviously to introduce everything that we're investing in. Now, I'm looking around and I can see everything from IT certification to cybersecurity certification to healthcare certification in the room. And you all know your audiences and your organizations and the pace at which they want to begin to adopt these technologies. I suppose I consider it our responsibility to be ahead of the curve. And I'm proud to say that I took the decision to invest heavily in remote proctoring in 2019. In October 2019, I said, we are going to be the leader in multimodal testing in 2019. Luck over judgment maybe, but I wanted to be there at the time that people were going to want it before they know it. So I do see that as the responsibility of the vendor. So at this point, your programs are all running great. Your programs are running fine. We are obviously the title of this session is about the next era. So we're talking about the next period of time. So I really don't want anyone to go away and panic and think, oh my God, I'm doomed, my programs, I'm so behind. It's not the case. Look at the number. There's someone somewhere in a test center or at home taking one of your certifications, and that is serving them just fine. Engage in the conversation. So I encourage you to go back, engage in the conversation. Know where maybe the vulnerabilities are in your programs, or where you've been kind of struggling with, we really want to innovate and drive forward a little bit on this. Engage in the conversation. Bring that back to, within amongst yourselves and back to us with regards to what are the problem statements you're trying to solve. We will have, I hope, everything that you might want when you want it. But you are all, we're lucky enough to work with so many different organizations, and we know you are all ready at different paces, and you have different pressures on your programs, different audiences that you're serving, different stakeholders that you have to satisfy. So I really don't want a sense of alarm that, everyone goes away with being concerned, but just talk to us and we'll try and tailor anything to your particular program.
Yeah, and I think that concept of getting engaged and having those conversations and collaborating and communicating is really important. And I'm looking at the Slido questions here, and one comment that was made here is around, can we have more of this? Can we do more think tank like this? And the answer to that is absolutely yes. There's different ways of doing this, but that is the beauty of our industry, of what we do, how we work together. And that's why I really wanted to zero in on that comment, Janet, that you just made, because that's what get us, help us to learn, get better, get to the next level, and benefit from each other. Yeah.
That's actually a perfect thing to say on top, because educating and feeling empowered to understand these new types of solutions and technology is going to be 90% of the battle within your organizations. And as I said in my previous presentation, speed and rigor are independent variables. Rigor is dependent upon the data that you have in place and trusting that data, not the speed at which it comes in. And so what I would say is that your organization shouldn't say, let's wait and see where things are going, because again, it's an independent variable. You can wait a long time and still make a bad decision. So as part of these thought leadership in this think tank, we are going to try and demystify these types of technologies for you to make you feel empowered so that you have that level of understanding, to eliminate the black box behind what does AI mean for my organization and what's my AI strategy. And so whether it's on my end or on Wally's end or Janet's end or Steve Trollinger's end on the client solutions, we want to make you feel comfortable around AI because of the rigor that it can bring to your program and then the speed that follows from it. Yeah. So I would say you need to start those conversations internally, maybe start fooling around with tools like ChatGPT and others just so you can even see what it's doing. And then that's going to be a really good point of contrast for what we're bringing in terms of a solution.
Yeah, no, I love this, and it's the concept of shattering that black box in so many ways, and kind of not take the answer of it's complicated and it's behind the scene or it's no, we need to get to understand it better, play with it. I like what you said around that. Play with the tools you have and understand them and leverage the people around you that have that understanding and expertise to kind of get yourself to the next level. One question for you, Wally, here. So one person in the audience kind of said, hey, there was a comment made that we should feel honored that people want the content because, it means that your program is sought after. It's something that is wanted. So after combating proxy testers and deepfakes, what do you think is next on the horizon?
Oh, great question. So earlier I did get the feeling that actually Janet was trying to replace me with one of her comments about AI, but there will always. I know that's. I'm just kidding. There will always, security is great because it's all about continuous education because evolving threats, right? It's always looking in my crystal ball of like, okay, how can I position the company, the intellectual property? We talk about our items. We all spend a lot of money. There's a lot of hard work that goes into creating items and generating forms. That's our IP. That's our blood, sweat, and tears, right? So protecting that, even if there's exposure, there's still an impact. There's a reputation. There's a brand, right? So we do have to continuously look at. It's deep fakes today as AI continues to go. We've talked about it a little bit, and I've actually asked my team to do it as an objective. I said for 2025 as a takeaway, I said, let's come up with some business cases. Whether they're efficiencies or they're going to help drive new revenue or operational capabilities, right? What can we do to develop new business cases? And let's put them in to a think tank within the organization. Mm-hmm. I like to have what I call, which is an industry thing called like a black hat event. And essentially what that is because there's one every quarter around the world. And what these black hat events is we do them internally, is we get everybody together and we look at all of the threats and we try to figure out what the next threats are going to be for the 12 months, 24 months. And then we already have started trying to solve them. We're not going to, well, detect is the number one, right? Then you can get to prevent if you can. And then you measure and then you manage and you have the forensics to help do that. But it is about, on the horizon, it's going to be AI agents, because these AI agents are going to be really, really cool and they're going to be really powerful and they're going to do lots of great things. But maybe they're going to be able to do too much. And so I'm nervous about the too much in the data that they're going to use. So a lot of the big tech companies that we all partner with today just to do collaboration, they have sandboxes where your data can be used, but it's not exposed to the world, right? It's not exposed to a public LLM model. I encourage you to look at that, but then also I say, yes, let's look at, let's learn and go. But then also the sort of the common sense part of me says, well, we still have policies. Don't use credit cards. Don't use PHI, right? It's still use it in a responsible manner, and that I think is a huge enabler. And we all learn from it, and we can all continue to grow from it.
Yeah, that concept of responsible use of AI is really critical, and having the right guardrails and processes in place to ensure that you are, keeping the balance while still pushing the limits in a way. So I guess at this point in time, what I would be interested in doing is as we try to kind of wrap up and surround some of the key themes that were discussed, I would ask each of you in turn, and I'll start with Yermie, then Wally, and I'll finish with Janet. So what is your top piece of advice to industry leaders in this room and live listening? What's the piece of advice to leaders in the room as they navigate changes and position themselves for the success of their program?
I have two thoughts. One of them is my own.
Okay, we'll start there.
So the first thought is that AI is here. It's not going to go away. The web is not going to go away. Computers are not going to go away. And digging your head in the sand is not going to make it go away, which means that you have, instead of an existential threat, an absolutely exponential opportunity to leverage it back to what the basics are of your core mission. And that core mission, you could say, if you're a medical credentialing field, it's to protect the public because people are going to be treating real life patients. Or if you're the financial planners, it's to protect people's wallets. Now, for the most part, it could be due to lack of resources or just historical purposes. Credentialing organizations have sort of been the guards at the end of the gate. You've said, I am protecting this career path by putting in this assessment that's preventing people who don't deserve to pass through it. But how people prepare themselves to get to that point, that's the secondary market. That's someone else's problem. And I understand why, because there just wasn't the resources, there wasn't the staff. A lot of you guys are nonprofits, and that comes with it. But AI, it now has this ability for you to actually go further on your mission. If your goal is to protect the public, you don't just have to be a guardian at the gate. You can also be an usher, which means that you can reach down to where people are interested in this career path, or they're preparing for that career path, and leverage your expertise about what are the guardrails behind being in this profession and give them the tools to better prepare for that profession. Because it's not just about the minimum competency standard. We have this joke that if you graduate at the bottom of your class, what do you call them? You say doctor. And then, my father-in-law says, and what do you say to that doctor? And I say, table up. And that's the joke about anesthesiologists from back in the day that control the table for the surgeon. But but now it's like the prestigious specialty, so joke's on me, right? But he's still playing Angry Birds while texting me during, so it's still, anyway. Coming back, like joking aside, I think that what we're trying to do, and I think ETS, the parent organization, and PSI is talking about closing this feedback loop of assessment, personalized feedback, and all the way through. And that's not just for the individual level, but it's actually protecting the population at large because you're creating more rigorous standards.
Yeah.
And so I would say AI is giving you the opportunity to solve the problems and solve the processes you have today. So assume that you wrap it up in a bow, checkbox. What happens next? So go back to your core mission and you can start rethinking it.
Yeah. Love it. And I have to say, I love the concept of thinking about it. You need guardians and ushers. Remember that. Wally.
Excellent. I'll try to be brief. Yes to everything Yermie said, right? He's spot on. From a security perspective, use it responsibly. It's a great tool. It's a business enabler. Just, have common sense type things as we're using it. And from a PSI perspective, reach out. You can reach out to security. It's all about collaboration. Security will not be successful if we don't understand your challenges and your problems. If you want us to do the experimentation, or if you want to know how we're doing things, how we've created an inventory of all our AI, how we're doing red team against our AI, all these security things, please reach out and be a partner.
Thank you, Wally. I would actually build. I was going to go somewhere building on what you just said. Actually, Wally, we created this forum to be able to hear each other. So we have very different roles as credentialing organisations, as testing vendors. We have different roles in this very precious ecosystem that we work within. Your role is to understand what is the necessary knowledge and competence of individuals to be entitled to hold one of your credentials. That's your role. You have to keep abreast of your specific industry, be it architects or, oncology nurses. So stick to your core of knowing how do you keep ahead of advancements within your sector to make sure that the knowledge and competence stays current, that your credentials stay current. Our role is to give you all the tools in order to help you reach the audience that you're trying to reach to get those credentials. So my one piece of advice would be talk to us, stay engaged in the conversation. We both have different roles in this ecosystem. Neither is more important than the other. There's no point in us giving you secure delivery for a certification that no longer has currency because it's no longer relevant in the modern world. So you do your bit, we'll do our bit, let's keep talking, and it's all going to be okay.
Absolutely. Collaboration, engagement, communication, critical from all aspects of what we've discussed. So thank you so much to my three guests for today's special edition of the Tried and Tested podcast. Thank you to the audience for participating. I appreciate the time we spent, and we'll see you soon. Thank you. Thanks, panel.